In the name of the cosmos. Hi, Moon. Yeah, you're entering into darkness. The mouth of the dragon. The light of our consciousness moves into the sign of Taurus, where it comes in to meet with Rahu, the head of the dragon, who starts to steal her light as she's bright in the sign of Taurus in the nakshatra of Rohini. Welcome to In the Name of the Cosmos. My name is Siri Prakash. I'm a Vedic astrologer, and in today's video we're going to examine this lunar eclipse, this prenumbral eclipse, this partial eclipse of our consciousness, where it's being revealed what is our stability, what it is that we're agitated to get going, how we can take this frustration and direct it. As the moon moves into the sign of Taurus, she becomes very bright, she's very full. But in the arrival of it, she discovers the inhabitant of Rahu, who's the planet that is her natural enemy, the one that wants to swallow and steal her light. It's the enemy to both the sun and the moon, right? So the sun and the moon are great luminaries of the sky, and Rahu and Ketu are the ones that causes eclipses. They're the change makers. Now the moon in the sign of Taurus is what's known as exalted. It's this place and this territory of the sky that offers her the most great amount of stability and comfort, right? It's this earthly abode that is the container of the ocean of her. It's where she seeks rest. It's where she can find her ability to really express and to really give the fruits of her. When she comes into her peak fullness, she is arrived at the nakshatra or the lunar sign of Rohini, her most favorite nakshatra, the place where she desires to merge. It's this part of the sky that is connected with our material wealth, what we are able to bear as fruit, the things that we're able to create and bring into manifestation. Right? So in the sign of Rohini, when it is eclipsed, it indicates the spoilage of these things for the next 6 months. So any nakshatra that the lunar or the solar eclipse occurs in indicates a spoilage or a challenge with. This is always the result of an eclipse in a nakshatra. So with the moon becoming very bright and very full, she's not fully eclipsed, but she's partially eclipsed. So there is hope, there is goodness, but she's mostly challenged for the next 6 months with these ability to provide this fruit. Now, lunar eclipses are more personal and solar eclipses are more cultural. They're more about the collective level and about the government. So on this lunar eclipse, we can see a lot of ignition because our biorhythm naturally follows the moon. So we're more naturally accelerated around the moon. Our energies are more heightened. We're more awakened and agitated. We have a lot of desire to create, to do things, to move. You know, it's where our subconscious mind is really at the surface. So it's like we're overbrimming with ideas of things to come and let's do, right? But it's being dampened through this eclipse. So it's being diminished through this eclipse on the results that it will bring. So just be mindful if you're working on projects right now that are being ignited and new within this week of the eclipse. Note that there will be challenges to these projects. If you're already working within projects, you are within a safe zone because you've created under a different circumstances. But generally through the eclipses, it's not a time of ignition for new things to come in. Because this gateway of consciousness that's being ignited through the eclipse axis of Taurus and Scorpio, this is the very first one in this zone. You know, so this is the fourth and final lunar eclipse of 2020, but it's the first eclipse in this axis of Taurus and Scorpio, where it's really challenging resource and our attachment to what is that is cumbersome, things that we're attached to, that we're holding on to the past. So it's this tension of really being obsessive about it and purging. Like really, this part of this axis is really teaching us about our obsession and our attachment to the past and this need to purge, right? As Jupiter and Saturn together are working to help shift, reshape, and rebuild in this new direction of humanity, right? So the eclipses are the markers of change and the shift of where we need to go. But the planets are the time tellers. So Saturn and Jupiter are telling us of the time, the slow rebuild and checking what is real, what is true, what really brings us stability, what really leads us to our liberation and our moksha. But Rahu and Ketu are the ones that initiate the change. And in this axis, it's really about our material resources, our sources of strength, our ability to break our ties with the past, right? And we'll see a lot that will come up with the solar eclipse, and I'll make a separate video about this. But in this lunar eclipse, it's really our internal desire really brimming over with a bit of frustration in it about wanting to create something, move forward, start something new, let's get on with it, let's get through this, We're also entering this end time of the end of 2020, and naturally, we always, every year, as we come to the conclusion of the year, we want to just go out with the old and in with the new, but it's even more doubly so because of all that's occurred in 2020, so be mindful of that. If you're starting something new within a week of this, it's going to be challenged. It's really going to be challenged, and likely you'll change how it really in total looks. But if you've already started a project and you're just continuing to work for it, you don't have to worry so much because this was already created under a different time. So this is something really to think about. Now, in the Vedic system and in the yogic system, eclipses are not auspicious events. They're not ones that we go out and seek to observe with our eyes or to have this absence of light fall upon us. It's ones where we take the energy and we go within, because it's this gateway that opens up that's not normally accessible to us, where we can go really more deeply within our practice. So in the tradition that I practice of Jyotish and in this yogic science, we don't go out and observe the lack of light from our luminaries, and we don't allow this lack of light to fall upon us because it's seen as inauspicious. So I invite you to consider this as part of your practice, to just take the energy and go within rather than seek the desire of looking at an eclipse outside, because it's not lucky. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a signal of a time shift, a consciousness shift, but it's not one that you really want to have cast its lack of light upon you, because this lack of light then brings a lack of awareness into your field. So use this energy to really go within, is my suggestion. Another thing we want to touch on with this is that in this eclipse, we have Mercury involved in the lunar eclipse, but he's also going to be involved in the solar eclipse on December 14th. This indicates challenges with our ability to transact and to do trade. So again, we want to look at confluence whenever we're studying our symbols and our mystical practices, and especially so within astrology. We want to look for confluence, so we start to see how the science of it starts to get proven out. So we have the nakshatra of Rohini relating to our resource. Then we have Mercury, the planet of trade and commerce, our ability to do financial transactions, our communication planet, our planet of our nervous system, also in this challenge zone for both the lunar and the solar eclipse. And then lastly, we have Saturn and Jupiter, who are both conjunct, who are getting ready to do this grand conjunction on the 21st, on the winter solstice, right? Where they go into, for the Vedic system, what's called a planetary war, right? So here they're also working together for the next 2.5 years to start to really slowly rebuild our economic situation, right? So this we can see is this confluence of where we can see that we're going to be challenged, at least for the next 6 to 9 months, of our monetary systems. So this is something that's going to be very much weighted on our mind, both with our emotional mind, the moon, our perceptive lens, the moon, and then Mercury being our discerning mind. Both of our minds are going to be really occupied, bringing into our awareness, our material gains, and how fragile they are, and how insecure and unstable that they are. So it's really going to bring this into our field of awareness. And this can also create a sense of urgency to create something, to do something, to launch something. But I urge you to just reconsider, to start something new, and wait until after the solar eclipse. Use this period of time as like your detective, because with Mercury in Scorpio next to Ketu, he can really dig down and find out a lot of hidden information, a lot of things that take effort to really discern, and you can be very honest in this zone, right? So Mercury in Taurus, he's not afraid to look under a rock, right? So Mercury in Scorpio is not afraid to look under a rock. So use this time to really like search under everything. If you're wanting to start something new, just use Mercury's time there to really discover what's hidden and where the real resource and the treasure is, because there's a lot to be found. You just don't want to ignite something new within this field of the eclipse with the moon and the sun and Mercury together, because it's about our transaction, our ability to really earn and do things. Just use it as a planning session period. Use this energy of the eclipse really to go beyond what you perceive as your material form. Use it as a time to really go within, to really discover what it is that you can lean on, what it is that you can really work with, what it is that really brings you benefit, what it is that really brings you reward. And don't be afraid to let go of what is not serving you. Just drop it. Like, use this eclipse period to just drop it. We're still in this time of this global challenge, right? And so there's a lot that you can pack into this time to allow yourself freedom to just move forward, right? So use this eclipse cycle to really work on your own perception, what it is that you are finding your resource with, what it is that is really giving you stability. Find the earth under your feet and use it to transform you. Use it to work on things that you're addicted to, whether it be the internet or stress, or even if you're struggling with like emotional patterns. Really look within how you can find your resource and look to connect with those resources that can actually help you to move in a directed, focused form rather than in an emotional trapped one, right? Because this axis of Taurus and Scorpio is really where we're gripping onto the past when we're really needing to open our hand to receive, right? This is really the challenge of it. I wish you the most beautiful eclipse cycle. I wish you peace. I wish you joy. I wish you abundance. I wish that you find a resource, and I wish you connectivity with your higher self. May you be blessed. May you feel loved, and may you find your courage. Sat Nam.